Hello, good evening. Hope you're doing well. I just published the drawing video for finishing up the face drawing that we did yesterday, and I am fixing to start prepping for our D&D game. Although I believe that it may have got canceled tonight. One of my friends, his wife's grandfather isn't doing so well, so I wish him all the best. But I thought I might take a moment to maybe begin giving a after action report, I guess, for some of our previous sessions and working through it. So, in our Dungeons and Dragons campaign, a lot of my players are the same between the Dungeons and Dragons and the Stars Without Number game. We are playing in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. I know that there's a lot of folks that I really enjoy watching on YouTube that aren't big fans of 5e, but there's a ton of people that actually are big fans of 5e. So, one of the reasons that I enjoy 5e is because there's just a plethora of content. There's so much stuff available for a DM, especially a new DM, to try and find ideas, monsters that are relatively balanced. Although I hate to even say that DMs need to worry about having balanced monsters, because I mean ultimately your characters are doing something dangerous, right? And because they're doing something dangerous, that it should inherently be imbalanced, right? I mean, it should go against their chances of success. At least that's my opinion. And, well, yeah, our game has turned out to be quite dangerous for the players, and I believe, based off their feedback, they've really been enjoying it. So I'm hoping maybe that I can give you guys some ideas in our game and sort of the storyline, and also, yeah, maybe you might just enjoy listening to it. So basically, our game takes place on an island called Darnassus. So I I'm a big World of Warcraft fan, or at least I used to be. I played Classic, all that good stuff. So um, I wanted our setting to be on an island, and I was just drawing a blank on what to name it, so decided to name it the Island of Darnassus. So the characters, the key thing for the island of Darnassus is that about 40 years ago, the island actually won its independence from the Empire, and it was really a story of, uh, I mean, that is really goes against anything that most people would believe, because the Empire in my setting is sort of, at least as far as the players right now know, it's a very vague entity, but they know that it's very powerful. And so for this small island with its limited number of inhabitants, to win its independence from the empire is no small feat. And some would even say that it was a miracle. Well, the victory was won with the hands of 4 dukes, and their names are, let me bring this up: Duke Wellington, Duke Manfred, Duke Castorall, and Duke Rainweather. These 4 dukes fought side by side, um, and they actually were relatively good friends 40 years ago. But that's really about all the players know so far, as the dukes. But they essentially control the island. They have it split up into 4 different regions, and they control their own little region. For the most part, over the last 40 years, they've kept peace, because it seems as if there was some kind of silent agreement between the dukes that basically they would not attack each other without the other ones coming to the defense of the one that was being attacked. So So yeah, it's a relatively peaceful island. Because of the unique way that it won its independence and because of the independent mindedness of the people on the island, it's a very open island. And what I mean by that is that there's lots of different races, there's lots of different creeds, different religions that take up residence on the island. There's not a lot of people that live on the island, as in, like, there's no mega cities that are on this island. The biggest city, I would say, probably only has maybe like 2,000 people. But I mean, it's a relatively large city. Sorry, a relatively large island. But definitely there are much larger population centers on the mainland for sure. But it's a very popular place to vacation. It's a very popular place to visit. It's a very popular place to live. Again, because of the relative freedom that is offered by the Dukes. So our story begins at a crossroads, and it's just before evening time. And the scene basically opens up following a young dragonborn named Belzire, and he's actually wearing relatively nice clothing. It seems as if he carries different tools and things like this. It seems as if he's almost some kind of an engineer or something, but he's hurrying along on the road, and he's trying to get to the town of River Run before the evening falls. And so he's coming up on this crossroads, and the crossroads is actually kind of nestled in a stand of trees, and so it's definitely much darker in the stand of trees as he's walking up. And as he approaches the crossroads, he sees a hooded figure standing in the crossroads. The hooded figure seems to notice him. It seems as if the figure is carrying a staff, and has what looks like gnarled old hands. And Belzire, not being one to be shy, walks boldly up to the figure and asks how he's doing, and the figure also responds very, very nicely that he's doing well, and that it's a nice evening, and they kind of making small talk. And about the time that this is going on, unknown to Belzire, but the these two people that are standing having this conversation in the crossroads, unknown to them, there are actually two other figures that have noticed them and are kind of sneaking up onto them in the trees that are surrounding the crossroads. One is a character named Cat, and the other is a character named Galair. Lastly, from the north, walking up towards the crossroads, is a well-armed paladin named Seraph, and he kind of sees the two people standing in the crossroads, and they actually spot him, and none of them seem to make any kind of move towards one another as far as aggressive or anything like that. So Seraph walks up and asks the two gentlemen how they're doing, and if either of them need help. In which case, they basically just strike up a brief conversation. And Belzire, being much more forceful, actually kind of asks the gentleman, you haven't given me your name yet. And the gentleman says, well, you don't need my name. This is still the hooded gentleman. You don't need my name. My name is not of import. And Belzire's kind of starting to get irritated. And something you're going to find out about Belzire through the story is that Belzire has a very short temper. And so Belzire begins to raise his voice. And about the time that he's raising his voice, there's a crashing through the woods to the northeast, which is actually kind of in the direction behind Seraph and Belzire where they're standing. And the commotion kind of materializes through the brush into a hobgoblin. And at first, Belzire and Seraph immediately are kind of like start to draw their weapons, but the hooded figure actually stops them and says, "Ah, here's my friend." And he walks forward and begins speaking with the hobgoblin and says, "Have you got it? Were you able to retrieve it?" And the hobgoblin nods, sort of looking at the hooded figure in a scared way. The players still haven't been able to see the hooded figure's face yet, right? Just that he's got gnarled hands and it seems like an old figure. And so the hobgoblin hands the older fellow, the hooded fellow, a box, and the hooded fellow snatches it out of his hand and turns around and looks at the players, and from within the hood they can see red eyes glowing. And at this point, Seraph says, "Well, I'm not sure who you are, friend, but anyone that will be friends with a hobgoblin is definitely not a friendly person." So he draws his two-handed sword. And then from the woods behind the hobgoblin, a crossbow bolt it flies through the air and juts through the hobgoblin's throat. And the hobgoblin is grabbing at his throat as he falls to the ground. And the hooded figure kind of just looks over at him and then looks back at Seraph and says that his time here has come to an end and he needs to go now. And Seraph and Belzire actually start charging at the hooded figure. And right as they charge, the hooded figure summons 3 skeletons between them and then opens a portal. As he opens a portal, another crossbow bolt flies through the air just as the hooded figure is stepping through the portal, and the crossbow bolt flies through the portal behind him, and the players can't see whether or not the bolt landed or not. But the portal closes, and a fight breaks out there in the Crossroads. And Seraph immediately hacks one of the skeletons in half quite easily. Belzire actually appears to be summoning some sort of magics, and he's able to also deal with one. And then from the shadows, Glare and Cat emerge, and they are able to deal with the third one. About the time that this is happening, and they are kind of catching their breath at the sudden, very quick combat that's occurred, from the woods steps a human man, and he seems to be in some sort of guard attire. Interesting enough, he also is looks like he's bloodied and tired, and he's out of breath for sure. And he yells at the 4, and he says, "Why did you let him get away?" And the 4 of them kind of look at each other like, "Well, we did the best we could, you know. I mean, this guy's summoning skeletons and portals. You know, this guy seems to be some kind of a crazy wizard thing, right?" So anyhow, as this goes on, they kind of talk with the guard, and they kind of figure out that this guard is actually came from Duke Wellington's estate, and he said that Duke Wellington's estate has been ransacked by goblins, and there's no one alive. He was the last one to live that was alive, and the players are kind of looking at him, kind of odd, you know, and anyhow, excuse me, goodness, it's been a long day. Anyhow, they ask, you know, well, is he hurt? And it turns out that this person actually is hurt, and they ask him his name, and he responds that his name is Corporal Bartholomew Foxtrot. Very odd name, I know, but he tells him that his friends call him Bart, and so Bart basically by this time is barely able to stand. Some of the adrenaline's starting to drain from him, and he's barely able to stand. So he urges the players that they should come with him and see if maybe they can find any survivors in the keep, in Duke Wellington's keep. And the players tell him, no, we need to get you to a doctor. River Run's only 3 hours away to the north. So the players take him, start to carry him back up to River Run, and they don't run into any trouble along the way. Even though it's dark, they hear quite a commotion to their east. Sounds like goblins speak coming from the east, but the players sort of kind of stay on the alert, but keep walking towards River Run, and they're able to successfully make it to River Run, but not before another guard from Duke Wellington's estate apparently did escape, and this person has warned the town, that there's roving goblins. And so the guards that are on guard of the town, they're really hesitant to let anybody in. But fortunately, because the players have Bart with them, they recognize Bart. He comes to the town a lot whenever he's on leave, and so they recognize Bart and that the players are trying to help him. So they let all the players in, but they still ask all the players to uncover their faces, throw back their hoods so that they can see everybody's faces, all that good stuff. And the players come to the town square, and basically this Private Smith, which is the other guard that escaped Duke Wellington's estate, Private Smith is telling the story of how these goblins have done all these terrible things to over here at the estate, and that there was no one else alive other than her and one other. And about that time, the other people kind of noticed that Bart is in the crowd, and so the mayor of the town, he looks he kind of steps in front of everybody and steps up on a platform. He has black hair and he's got it greased back, and he's got very nice clothing. Really kind of maybe too nice for his station, especially in this smaller town. But it seems as if he commands respect, and interesting enough, most of the townspeople also seem to respect him, because the mayor stands up on the platform and says that the guard will be doubled on the walls tonight, and that all of the militia of the town should be on high alert, and that there will be constant guard kept throughout the night as well as for the coming days, and orders the folks, everybody else, to kind of get to their homes, stay quiet, get some rest, and try and stay out of the streets so that they don't, cause any additional trouble that otherwise he can't deal with tonight, given that there's a goblin incursion going on apparently. And so with that, the players actually head to bed for the night. They find there's not really a very good doctor in the town. There is an old librarian, and she seems to be the most skilled at tending wounds and things like this. So the players take Bart to the old librarian. Her name's Betsy, and Betsy actually has a bed for Bart. The other players, all of them except Galaire, take residence in the inn, and the inn is actually owned by the mayor of the town. Galaire decides to sleep in a tree, oddly enough. Turns out that Galaire is actually a shapeshifter, and the players really don't know that yet. The other players don't. And yeah, that ends up concluding our first night of play. We usually only play for just a couple hours. If we're incredibly lucky, we'll be able to squeak out 3 hours. But we play every week. Usually try and get in a couple hours a week. But yeah, it's that's kind of the start to our little adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you kind of come up with an idea for your own game. And anyhow, I guess next week, maybe before then, if I get some time during the week, I'll try and see if I can maybe get another video out to try and catch up on a few different things in Dungeons and Dragons. But otherwise, yeah, thanks guys for your time. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good week, and I guess we'll see you next time.